You tell clients you're a fractional CMO, but 3 days a week you are in the weeds executing and they're treating you like a contractor, not a leader. If that sounds familiar, this video is for you. I'm going to walk you through the difference between being an agency, a contractor, and a fractional CMO. And I know you're sitting there thinking, I know this, but you probably don't if this is happening to you. And I'm going to walk you through why mixing up or code switching those roles is actually destroying your authority with your clients without you realizing it. So let's get into it. Okay, so I'm going to walk you through the definitions. And if you're sitting there thinking, I know this, just hear me out. An agency. This is a business model, of course, where you have a team. Typically, you specialize in one thing and you do that execution of the thing. So when someone hires an agency, they're hiring someone to do the marketing for them, right? You know this. A contractor is somebody you're hiring temporarily or on an hourly basis or on a scope basis, again, to do a specific thing. That person is coming in, they're typically delivering a scope of work. There is a clear divide there. Even if that person is doing a bit of strategy, they are still actually delivering work. Fractional CMO is a leadership role. You're hired to lead the marketing direction, to make strategic decisions, to own outcomes, and to advise the owner or executive team, not to execute on anything. So when a client hires you as a fractional CMO, they're hiring someone to lead their marketing, to help them think through decisions, make better decisions, guide their strategy, guide their team, and ultimately own the marketing function in their business. So that is a completely different caliber of person and leadership that you're bringing into your company than an agency or a contractor. And so here's where it can get messy as a marketer. When you say you're a fractional CMO, maybe you are managing social media or you're doing paid ads, but you're also trying to sell fractional CMO services. When you are code switching or jumping back and forth between those roles, what happens is inevitably you are going to spend more of your time executing and fulfilling on the actual work that requires doing. And when a client sees you in that role, they can't quite figure out how to place you. And what happens is you usually get bucketed into the place where you spend the most time. And I want to be really clear about something. You can't be a CMO for an hour and then a contractor the rest of the week with the same client. The moment you drop into execution, you've left the CMO seat and clients stop seeing you as a leader. They start seeing you as a doer or an order taker or somebody that does the work. So in one afternoon, you're sending them something for review and feedback and making changes based on what they've said. And then you're trying to advise them on how to grow their revenue. It's just not the same caliber of relationship or the same level of relationship, I should say. So what happens is as a marketer, you might think, oh, I can lead the strategy and I'll also handle the social media. That's fine. I'm being a team player. I'm doing more for them. That's actually great. But the thing is, it's just shrinking your authority, which at the end of the day, if clients aren't looking at you as a leader, the trust won't be there. And ultimately, if they're seeing you as an executor, you're limiting your earning potential because we know as marketers, there's a cap on what you can charge. If you're copywriting, writing emails, if you're doing social content or ads, like there's average rates for that, as is the same for fractional CMO work. But the average rates for fractional CMO work, if you've listened to my videos or podcasts for any given time, is much higher than anything in execution because you are filling a much more important gap in someone's business. The other thing that I see happen all the time when people do this is probably the most sneaky consequence of this is scope creep and burnout. And you're probably sitting there thinking, how are these related? And I'll tell you what happens because if clients see you as a contractor, they will keep putting more stuff on your plate. And it's really hard when you are in a doing role, when you're executing on some element of marketing to draw that line. And it's tough. I have this conversation with marketers all the time. How do I go from doing marketing to leading marketing? And it's even harder when part of your role or part of your scope with client is the doing, because it just blurs the lines around where does my role start and end. So if you're trying to be a contractor or an agency role in one element, but also the CMO in another, you're just going to find that there's not a clear boundary for you to lean on around what you do and don't do. And it's so easy to lead to burnout. And you only have so many hours in the day. So I just want you to think through that, like at where is my time best spent? And if this is important to you, how can you maximize your income? And it's always by doing the work that is going to pay the best. So if you're sitting there thinking, what do I do now? Let's talk about that. So what actually changes when you stay in the CMO seat versus switching back and forth? So what's happening is you will just be leading. You won't be executing. And that's going to have a ripple effect through everything. Clients will have a better understanding of where you fit in their business and what to come to you for. So are you someone who should be making decisions or helping them make decisions? Are you someone who they can look at as an authority and someone to advise them on important pieces of their business? And that will be a yes. So the trust will start to build and how they see you as an authority will start to improve. Then your pricing actually makes sense. So when you are just staying in the fractional CMO seat, you can charge 10, 15K plus per month because the scope of work you're doing is high level and it's really important. You're helping them shape the direction of their company, and you're managing what is a very important area of their business directly tied to sales. The other thing is scope creep doesn't happen as much, especially when you are really, really clear on your package and how you deliver that package. And if you're not clear, I cover all of that in Fractional CMO School. The link is in the bottom here. So if you're interested, check it out. I walk through all of that and teach you exactly how to show up and make sure there isn't scope creep and that you're not burning out and crossing those boundaries. But it's going to be so much easier if you're not flipping and switching back and forth between executing and CMO work. So I want to emphasize something as I wrap this up here, because this isn't about being rigid or having firm boundaries. If you love executing, that is great. But it's just about having clarity in your role so that you can command the rates you deserve. The client is clear and understands and has the trust and respect around your authority, and you're not burning yourself out with scope creep. So it's just about having a role in a business model that functions and feels really, really good for you. So before you take on another client, get clear on what you actually are and what you want to be. Because look, there's no right answer here. You could be an agency, you could be a contractor, you could be a fractional CMO, but your life will be so much easier when you pick one and you stay in that lane. Because the moment you stop code switching and role switching back and forth, clients will see you differently and your business will function in a much smoother way. If you like today's video, please subscribe below and I will see you next week.